Welcome everyone. With me today is Daniel Winning, aka Winmore TCG. He's got a Verdance deck tech for you all. He's going to go through the very basics of the deck. He's going to explain the good matchups, the bad matchups, how you can prepare for the bad matchups, and the way you want to basically approach playing Verdance. So Daniel, do you have anything to say before we get in?
Yeah, thanks for having me on the channel. Yeah, I'm Dan. I'm Winmore TCG. Some of you might see me some places, probably not. But yeah, been playing Verdance for probably like 3 or 4 months now, like a bit before Pro Tour, and I love the deck so much. Like my most favorite deck I've played probably since I've started Fab about 2 years ago. And yeah, I want to make sure as many people are on it as possible, and at least help people try it because it's super fun.
Yeah, I guess the purpose of this video is to be an entry for people that are interested in picking up the deck. And also, if you have played the deck for a bit longer, there'll still be a few kind of helpful bits of information in here. Hopefully. That's on you though, Dan.
Cool. Right, well, I'll get started. Just a bit about the deck and also kind of what we've been doing with it recently. So took it to 3 Pro Quests this season. Top 8'd one, top 4'd another, and just bubbled out on one of the others, so came 10th on one of them. I think with Verdance you can quite reliably top 8 a Pro Quest if you know what you're doing based on the meta, and based on what the good matchups are. But Verdance as a wizard has quite a few polarized matchups, so you are subject a bit to gem luck in some ways, but there are ways that you can mitigate certain matchups and play differently to increase your win rate into those bad matchups. So we'll start with the deck. The main 50 cards in this deck are generally cards that are pretty much in for everything. Last format, when we were playing against Aurora and Enigma, we had to focus on kind of presenting a bit more damage, having a few more on hits that people have to block with, and yeah, just generally a different style of the deck. I think mainly you're going to be running Surge and Aethertide into a majority of matchups. The matchups where that isn't the case is the hyper aggro matchups, where there are 2 ways to approach those. So you can either approach it with Waning Moon, which basically extends your kill range with Storm Striders at the end of the game. So if you have Metacarpus nodes, that's normally about 8. Without it, that's 7. But then you can also increase your kill range with Rampant Growth lives, which you can either hard draw or you can plume them back from the graveyard. The other thing you can do is Surgent with spells that are a bit disruptive, or trying to do mid-range game plan into the aggro decks with like trees and stuff like that. But the things you want to be hitting with Surgents is stuff like Mind Warp. But because I've got Waning Moon in the deck, I'm not actually playing Mind Warp. Mind Warp's a bit of an interesting card, but I'll talk about that later. The equipment here is pretty much what you'll be having into most of the matchups. The sideboard equipment that you have are tunics, so that will be for your obviously your wizard mirrors, and also slower matchups that you kind of want that extra resource. So things like Jarl, Florian, you can have it into unless you know they're on like a sort of aggro Florian. Metacarpus nodes are basically an AB1 piece. Generally, the block value on Stonewall Gauntlet is better because it's generally 2, and preventing a non-hit has better value than extending your kill range by 1. And then you have Waning Moon for your aggro matchups. The Bark Skin is just a solid piece that just has a lot of value in it. You play a lot of non-attack actions, and even if the effect doesn't go off, it's still 3 block chest equipment, which is just great. And the curve of the deck, you don't need Tunic too much. You have a lot of 3 attacks, and generally if you're doing Surgeon into another card, like a Felling or something like that, you need an extra card to do that anyway. Plume is for your combo. You're generally getting back a Rampant Growth life or a or a spell like Pulsing Aether Life. They're both good options, just depending on what your hand is. But also in your aggro matchups, you're getting back your fellings. In your aggro matchups, basically you have to see a felling early, and you have to send as many as you can in subsequent turns, and Plume helps you do that, and it's just higher value than a Crown of Providence, in my opinion. Some people do play Crown, but I think the consistency of seeing a felling with the Plume on subsequent turns is just better. Right, so in the main board, there are, I think, a lot of cards that just can't be cut, so like that's just like your channel. It's sometimes you're just blocking with it, but the ability to go over AB is just really strong. And keeping over for numerous turns against your slower matchups is really good. Felling is the best card in the deck. It's like not even close. It decomposes, so it gets you close to being online. But then it also is essentially like around a 2-card 11. It also disrupts people quite well. If you go Surgeon into a felling, you can strip cards out of their hand really well. Pulsing Aether Life is your best spell in the deck. If you've got floating resources, you can gain the life, which is another ping when you're online, and it deals 4 arcane. So, and that just synergizes really well with Rampant Growth Life. Plow Under is also very strong. A lot of the time you are blocking with it though, but the effect to just get rid of an arsenal without your opponent being able to interact unless it's an instant is just incredibly strong. Ring of Roses is great. The earlier in the game you see it, it's better. But whenever you're thinking about playing it out or blocking with it, you have to think about how much value you are giving up to play it, basically. So if you've in an aggro matchup, if you've got like fellings or cards that disrupts their hand and then also send 6 damage, the value on that is potentially better. But you just have to think about how much is left of the game. How much is left of the game, how much value you're going to get from Ring, how far away are you from getting online, that sort of stuff. It is better with Waning Moon, I think, a lot of the time, especially if someone's on AB1, so you can play this out mid-game, then Waning Moon with a blue or a yellow, and you then get a heal and a ping if you're online. A lot of the blues are fairly standard. I think the only blues that you potentially can cut are Aether Arc. Some people don't play Aether Arc. Not everyone plays Heart of Yendel, but I'm not sure if that's a cost consideration. The card's very strong, I think. And So Tomorrow. So Tomorrow is kind of a hedge into those slower fatigue matchups. It's also Earth on attack action, so with Bark Skin, if it has 1 counter on it, it's one like a -1 counter on it. It can block 4, which is quite good, and it blocks 5 if you've got none on it. So it's just strong. But putting an arsenal, putting a felling back into your deck for like a counter pitch stack, or just having more threat density in your deck is just very strong. It also banishes itself, so gets you online in the early game. So the other cards that you can play instead are like you can play more attacks like Summer's Fall, or like Blue Cadaverous. I know some people are on that, but the reason that So Tomorrow is also good is that it's an Earth card, and you don't play that many Earth cards, so but you need them to keep stuff like Tree around, and you need Earths in your grave to be able to decompose consistently. Rootbound's good. I think the red one's good enough. Like I think you have enough decompose to get you there in the right amount of time. I don't like yellow Rootbounds because I personally would like. I don't think yellows are that strong. I'd rather have more blues consistently, so I can send the fellings as much as possible. But also they do block for 3, and they have like 1 mode. Although they do get you decomposed, I think something like Cadaverous Tilling, which attacks for 8 while it decomposes, is just a stronger value proposition. So that's kind of the main deck. I guess the other things to talk about, Command and Conquer, some people play Nourishing Emptiness, but I think CNC is just live more of the time, especially if you're not playing yellow Rootbounds. It's just an insane card, just in general. It's just good. E-Strike is good because it lets you use your hands if you have tempo. It's also just a block 3, and it also helps you fix your hands that are mono red, so you can block 6 and send 7 if that's the case. which does happen enough that it's a consideration. And then Shelter is just a strong card, but it could be Sink Below or Fates if you're playing Sinks on top. So the sideboard quickly got 5 poppers basically here. Evergreen is also good against something like Florian or Jarl. When you do a combo and it doesn't quite kill them, you have like a plan B to play against them. Fruits is a very flexible popper that lets you heal, and it's like a 7 attack, so it's just good to send some of the time. Also, we have Summer's Fall, which is just something that can be taken out if you want to, but it's just something to deal with Prism. It's like one of the only reliable ways to like hit a merciful retribution or something like that if they get it out, which is an issue in that matchup. We also have in this sideboard, we have the combo part of the deck, which is Sigil of Solace, or just, you can also have Fruits as well considered in that vein as well. Just some sort of healing spells that are just good value when you're online, like a Sigil of Solace is 4 value essentially. And then if you've got Ring of Roses, it's even more, so they have to block it out, which strips cards from the hands, and you can go into a felling. But with the combo, so with Rampant Growth Life, essentially against slower decks, what you're trying to do is set out healing potions, heal 6, then you try and play 3 Rampant Growth, so you've got 1 in the grave, so you can plume 1 back, and that will amp 9 for each one that you play, because that's 6 plus 3, which is the healing you get from Rampant Growth Life. So, and if you've got any healing on top of that, you multiply that by 3 to calculate the amp on each Rampant Growth. So you basically hit with that plus a Surgent. Potentially you'll have an E-Pot as well, so you get to do the Surgent for free into a spell. So it's normally most of the time it's around 50, but it can go higher. So that helps you kill decks that are trying to gain life. CYB decks is like the one way that you get around that. We also have a Remembrance that's, in my head, is basically just for Florian, because it lets you put back 3 Scours into your deck, which helps you deal with big rune stack OTKs, or if they're trying to outvalue you, it's actually impossible, because Scour is a ridiculous amount of value if you can resolve them for like 10 or 12. We also have Mental Block, which is like one of my favorite cards. Ponders aren't actually that strong in Verdance necessarily, but I think on average, being able to like to block breakpoints efficiently and also stop Flick Knives effects is just really strong. It's also a way to combat Arcane that goes over your Arcane barrier, which in this deck setup is 3. You can also play Constellus potentially to get that. But yeah, Mental Block I think is just a great card, and I think the Ponder is good enough, especially if you're playing Seeds. Having something in Arsenal is pretty good. There's enough good hits with Mental Block that I think that the Ponder is actually worth quite a bit. And then Seeds Tomorrow, that is basically just something to combat Flick Knives, Syndra, just anything that has weird breakpoints. It's not an insane value card, but it also stops certain things like spells, and it can help stop Kano killing you in 1 turn, although that's not entirely reliable, because that deck just has the nuts sometimes. The last thing I want to say about Rampant Growth Life is that you don't need to play it with the combo every time to get the value out of it. It still heals 1. If you're online, it pings 1, and then it will amp however much you've healed, which if you've sent something like a Pulsator Life, like as a minimum, you get to amp an additional time. So basically get quite a lot of value from just resolving these, even in like a tempo game plan. The times I don't play it is the super aggro decks where I'm not trying to combo, I'm just trying to send fellings as much as possible. So that's the basic outline for the deck. I'll now go into the sort of reasons to play Verdance in this current meta. So theoretically, the meta is a lot slower. There's no Aurora. There's no Enigma anymore that you have to deal with board state. So the popular decks are like the main one that you have to consider is Florian. Verdance has probably the best matchup into Florian. In any way that Florian can set up, you have a game plan that beats it. The only time that you struggle into Florian is that if they're on a different plan from what you expected. So, for example, if someone's playing like a slower Scepter or just like a Reaping Blade with like rune stack, rune chant stacks, you can side into like have the Scours and the Remembrance, and you can kill them quite easily. And even you can just drop low enough and then do the H-pot combo with Rampant Growth Life, and you can kill them. But if they're on a sort of CMH heavy aggro Florian list, you can struggle if you side incorrectly. But luckily, I think the matchup's so favoured into like the Scepter Florians that you can have enough D-reacts and enough block 3s in the deck that you don't die to the aggro Florians reliably, and you can just kind of block them out and decompose. And you also have Stormstriders in the last bit of the game, so you can just outvalue them quite well. You pay into the AB quite efficiently. So basically, if you want to combat Florian, I think Verdance is an amazing pick. She also has a lot of good matchups throughout the meta, or just like 50-50 matchups. And if you become quite proficient at Verdance and you don't get unlucky, you have really good matchups into a lot of different things. The outliers of that would be Nu and Prism, and also potentially Syndra. But I think those matchups are the Syndra matchup is like good enough with something like Waning Moon, and if you see Fellings early, that's okay. It's slightly playable. However, Nu is very miserable. If they have AB3, there's pretty much no way you can win, in my view, unless you get very lucky. They brick, or you just have like insane tempo of just like felling every single turn, or like Cadaverous Tilling. But the way you want to play Nu is, and it's actually similar for Prism as well, you want to be playing quite a tempo based plan. So you're playing with Surge and Aethertide, not because you're trying to combo, but because you're trying to block as little as possible, and you're trying to surge into a 7 or 8 attack. So that's your Tillings, your felling of the Crowns, even your Plow Unders are good if they have an arsenal. And you're basically just trying to get them down low enough so that they have to start blocking or giving up cards, and then you can Stormstriders or something like that. Into Nu, you have to be playing like, you basically fat deck everything. You take out your Heartbeats of Candlehold because you don't want them to be resolving that multiple times because you just can't kill them. But you need to be setting up a H-pot and some Rampant Growth Life combo at the same time while you're trying to temper them down. So it's very difficult, but it's the way you have to play. Against Prism, you want to be having as many poppers in as possible. If they have library early, the game's like pretty much unwinnable, so it's really difficult. But the issues in that matchup are Merciful Retribution, which basically means that if you pop something, it goes back into their soul, and then they actually outvalue, because if they set up like another thing like a Genesis or something like that, they actually do more damage than you when you're trying to kill them. So it's really rough. Previously, they weren't playing like an aura plan. They were just playing like mono Empyrean Rapture with Heralds, and they were just trying to mow down the Prisms and the Auroras. But now that they're gone, they have space for the aura plan, which is really, really difficult for us. So you're just trying to pop, go Surgeon into an attack. And the other thing that you can do sometimes is that you can clear their 0-cost auras and some of their spectrals with the Scour, which is good. The last thing that I want to note in the Prism matchup is that it's not that you just can. I think pretty much every single game that I play into Prism, I'll be using my Stormstriders on a Pulsing Aether Life in order to kill the Soraya Figment ally when it attacks. So basically, as they declare an attack with it, if you Stormstriders into a Pulsing Aether Life, Pulsing Aether can target any target, so you target the Soraya, and it will die. They won't get the draws, and they'll lose their action points. And then on the next turn, you can just attack them for 7 or 8. So that's the way that you want to be utilizing Stormstriders in that matchup, which is quite different to a lot of the other matchups. It's just a tempo swing, basically.
Do you think the new expansion slot pseudo popper spell is 3 of in this list? Just for Prism?
I think Yeah, I think that card's really good. It's better than any popper that you have. And I think if Prism was a threat, you'd definitely be putting 3 of it. I think it's a really strong card, and the arcane, like the rate on it is really good for wizards. So it's a 3 cost for 6 arcane. So it's 2 cards, 6 arcane, which is really strong. Because in most matchups that's basically 3 unpreventable. So I think the floor on it's really good. It's a block 3 as well. It's a non-attack action which works with an embodiment. It just depends if you've got enough space, and if it turns out that it is just better than having a 7 cost popper, which I think in some cases it is better because it plays around like their -1 attack effects, and stuff like that. But in some cases it isn't, because you might not be able to get it out of hand or anything like that. So like for example, if you had a Fruits of the Forest, if you take tempo against Prism, which sometimes happens, if you've got it in hand, you can then discard it and it will like heal 2 ping 1. Whereas the other spell will just kind of be stuck in hand, or you'll have to put it in Arsenal, which is bad because or you'll have to IP it in hand, which is okay because it's a popper, but it's probably not as good as Fruits in that scenario. But it is really strong, and having 6 arcane against Prism when they only have like AB1, like kind of guarantees you killing an ally that they have set up. So I think it's quite strong. I think it will definitely be in the list in some way, maybe like 2 of or something like that, just to give you some sideboard space. But yeah, I think that covers everything for the current meta, I think. Looking at the sideboard here, so talked about a few cards that could be changed. So there are a few considerations that you want in the sideboard. So Sigil of Solace is something that's potentially cuttable. Some people move to E-pots with Fertile Ground, and you can also, this also means that you can cut out the healing potions. What the Fertile Ground does for you is that you have to take up less of your tempo, less of your action points throughout the game. So instead of putting up 3 healing pots, you can put up 2 E-pots, and if you can then draw into the Fertile Ground into the late game. But yeah, so that's one thing to consider. So instead of like 6 healing, you get 5 healing, but you have less impact on your tempo game throughout the mid game. The other thing that you want to consider is how many prisms are there in your meta. So like, for example, if there's less prisms, you can take out some of your poppers, and if you want to prep into more aggro, you can definitely put in more D-React. So Sink Below could definitely fit in here. I think the way that the deck's set up right now, as you see it, is like maybe quite hard into Dash-O. So you probably want more D-Reacts and more 3 blocks into that matchup, just so you can fatigue them. But it's quite hard to race them or outvalue them, especially if they see max fees, because as soon as they see 1, they have access to many more with the backup protocol red. So it basically just depends on what your meta looks like. If it's slower, if it's faster, whether or not you want to put more D-Reacts, more 3 blocks. If you don't have many like Syndras or Assassin, you can think about taking out Mental Block, but then if you've got loads of Wizards, you can keep Mental Block in. Some people like Seeds Tomorrow like more than 1, but I think having it at 1 is just better, and I don't think you want to be seeing it that much in the game. I think you just want 1, and then you want it in the grave so you can have an option to plume it back when and if you need it. So yeah, I think that's all for high seas. Moving on, I think Puffin's looking to be quite difficult. They have a lot of stuff that disrupts your equipment, so like your Plume, your Storm Striders, which normally they wouldn't be able to kill. And then also they now have ways to steal your potions. So I don't think it's reliable to set up a pitch stack or just like a H-pot combo against them with Rampant Growth Life. I think you probably have to temper them, but then that leads you into, you know, if you actually don't do better damage than them or better value than them, then you actually could lose. So that's one thing to consider. Against Marlin, we don't have many of our cards yet that show, apart from the Big Go Fish cards. If she is how she is at the moment, the aggro version might be quite difficult to do if they just have time to set up and can do a lot of damage with the 3 of a kind and a Rain Razors. But we'll still see how she fleshes out a bit. And then Gravy Bones is probably something that's quite difficult to play against, but because I think you have to be able to deal with the board and then also have some sort of way of having enough life at the end of the game and then being able to combo them, because I don't think you can actually compete with their board state because you don't have as many ways to do damage. The best cards against that matchup though are like cards that heal you up, so like, and then we'll be able to ping allies, because Verdance's ability pings allies as well, so it's just you can target anything. So like Heartbeat of Candlehold, or like Pulsing Aethers that can target anything. You also get the heal and then the ping. But against that matchup, you basically want to be online as soon as possible so that you can then start using your healing cards that are able to take out the allies, especially the one health ones, like Rigor Mortis and Limpet as well, which are quite strong. So that's all I have to say, I think. Is there anything that you think's worth talking about that I haven't talked about already, Tim?
The very good matchups besides Florian, what would you say they are? I guess.
Yeah, so Mario, I think Fang's pretty good. Trying to think about the meta. Guardians are really good. Y'all can play CYB, but if you see what they're pitching, so you can see what they're counter stacking, you get through your deck quicker. So by the time they start stacking for their counter stack, you would have gone through your deck much faster, and you should hit your Rampant Growth Life combo a bit sooner. The only thing that you have to be cognizant about is that they have Crumble to Eternity, so they'll blow up your Plume, and then they'll blow up your Storm Striders in that order. So you basically don't want to give up one of your Rampant Growth Lives early in the bin like you would in normal HPOC combo matchups. You kind of want to keep all of them in your deck, and then Arsenal one before the other two come round, and because your Plume is likely to be gone by that point. But yeah, you want to be putting in E-Pot as well in that matchup, so you have enough resources to play. The things that they counter stack that are really good against you are Oakenolds and CLF. So if they are a good player, or they haven't pitch stacked and they get lucky by seeing the CLF or Oakenold at that particular moment in time, then the matchup can be quite rough. But I think it's fine. You beat a lot more Jarls than you lose to. If it's a good Jarl, then maybe it could be really tough. But I think having the Evergreens in that matchup as well is like a good way to sort of hedge against their fatigue stuff if they don't die on your big combo turn. The other thing that's worth mentioning is that your combo doesn't actually have to like kill them. If you get them low enough and your deck, and you know what your pitch stack is, if you got into a Emeritus or a Pulsing Aether Life on their next turn, generally they would have emptied their hand to pay for the AB on your big combo turn. So they'll have no hand, and then you can get 4 over on the Emeritus Golding, which is worth noting. But yeah, what other good matchups are there? There's, I think everything that I haven't mentioned is like probably close to 50-50, if not slightly favoured. I think Slippy's hard, I think, for you. That's actually one of your harder matchups, but you can get there. You have to put in Rampant Growth Lives without the rest of the combo, and try and at some point do like a big value play where you play out your Rampant Growth Lives and do a big bunch of Arcane and healing at the same time. And that's just the case with some of your other matchups as well. They can be difficult, but if you can oops into a Rampant Growth Life combo, you can get there fine. But yeah, I think the last thing I want to say is that to go back to what I said at the beginning, this deck is super fun to play. It obviously does have some pitfalls, like some of the other decks, and some of the games you'll feel like it's kind of felling or bust, but and also you might struggle to like see decomposed cards some of the time, but I think playing around those sort of obstacles and like navigating the game, especially when you're playing to like very different game plans into very different decks, it brings a sort of enough difference throughout the whole of the metagame that makes it really, really fun and interesting to pilot. So yeah, that's all I've got to say, Tim.
And in a timely half-hour fashion as well. Not too bad. Well, yeah, thank you for your time, Dan. As I said, I've got nothing to contribute here. I'm just enabling you to tell everyone about Verdance. So if you have been considering picking up the deck, give it a try. I've heard a lot of people say it's kind of like Icelander in a sense as well. It gives like kind of similar vibes, and I know a lot of people miss that deck, so this could be your saving grace for that. And if you have any comments, any questions about the deck, feel free to ask. We'll happily answer them. And good luck playing the deck, I guess. Any final words from you, Daniel?
Thanks for listening. Hope you pick up the deck and yeah, enjoy.
Cool. Enjoy your day, guys.